What happens when a Hollywood star, known for depth and charisma, clashes with a host unafraid to dig deeper than boundaries allow? This moment on The Oprah Winfrey Show became legendary, leaving the audience in shock and social media ablaze. Bryan Cranston, the actor the world knows as Walter White from Breaking Bad, came to the show to promote his new film. But no one was prepared for what happened next. The Chicago studio of The Oprah Winfrey Show buzzed with anticipation. The live audience, mostly women, clapped eagerly as Bryan Cranston stepped onto the stage. His signature smile, a mix of charm and subtle irony, immediately won over the crowd. The spotlights glinted off his graying hair, and the click of his heels on the polished studio floor echoed through the microphones. He waved, nodding warmly, and took a seat in the iconic chair across from Oprah. "Bryan, welcome! We're so thrilled to have you!" Oprah beamed with her trademark warmth, holding a stack of note cards. Her voice was sincere, but a faint spark in her eyes hinted at a brewing storm. The audience erupted in applause as Cranston thanked her for the invitation, shrugging modestly. "You know, Oprah, I'm just happy to be here," he said, adjusting his jacket. "Your shows are always, how should I put it, unpredictable." The audience laughed, sensing the light-hearted moment. But backstage, producers exchanged quick glances. The cameras hummed, zooming in on the two stars, while operators and headsets received instructions. "Keep a tight shot on both of them." Cranston was there to talk about his new film, a drama about family ties and grappling with personal demons. "It's a story about humanity, about how we deal with loss," he explained, his voice soft but confident. "My character is a man trying to find himself after tragedy." The audience listened, rapt, as Oprah nodded, her hands clasped on her lap. But the atmosphere shifted when Oprah leaned forward, her smile sharpening. "Bryan, your character seems very complex. And you know, some say you play these kinds of roles because you're hiding your own demons. Is that true?" The studio fell silent. Cranston raised an eyebrow, his smile fading slightly. The audience, which had been laughing moments ago, now sat in tense stillness. A woman in the front row clutched her purse, while a man behind her pulled out his phone, discreetly starting to record. Cranston leaned back in his chair, his fingers lightly tapping the armrest. "Oprah, you know how this works," he replied with a touch of irony. "Actors don't always play themselves. We take stories that resonate and try to make them real." His voice remained calm, but his eyes betrayed a hint of caution. Oprah didn't back down. She flipped a note card, her gaze piercing. "But Bryan, let's be real. You became famous playing Walter White, a man who lost his moral compass. Some say you're too comfortable in these dark, broken characters. Doesn't that raise personal questions? Do you ever feel like you're avoiding accountability for your own flaws by hiding behind these roles?" The silence in the studio was deafening. A muffled cough echoed from the back. One of the camera operators, eyes glued to the lens, whispered into his headset. "This is a twist." The co-host, a young journalist named Layla sitting next to Oprah, shifted uncomfortably, her eyes darting between Cranston and the audience. She tried to intervene. "Oprah, maybe we could go back to the film? I heard there are some amazing scenes with..." But Oprah raised a hand, cutting her off. "Layla, hold on. I want to hear what Bryan has to say." The audience held their breath, sensing the tension thicken. Cranston took a slow breath, his jaw tightening ever so slightly. The camera zoomed in on his face, capturing the narrowing of his eyes and the slight downturn of his lips. "Oprah," he began, his voice quiet but firm. "I'm not sure where you're going with this, but accusing me of avoiding accountability feels, to put it mildly, unfair." He paused, letting the words hang in the air. The audience stirred, some whispering, "She's gone too far." Oprah, however, pressed on. She leaned closer, her voice sharper. "Bryan, I'm just saying your roles aren't just roles. You choose stories about broken people. And I've heard that in real life, you haven't always been, how should I say, the perfect family man. Are you using acting to dodge those conversations?" The studio erupted in hushed murmurs. A woman in the third row covered her mouth, her eyes wide with shock. Layla looked like she wanted to sink into the floor. She tried again. Oprah, maybe we. Layla, I'm having a conversation. Oprah snapped, her eyes locked on Cranston. Backstage, a producer in a headset whispered frantically, "This is gold for ratings, but God, she's playing with fire." Cranston tilted his head back and let out a short laugh, more like a sigh. "Oprah, you really want to go there?" he asked, his voice steady but laced with steel. "I came here to talk about a film, about art, about the stories we tell. But if you want to dig into my personal life, let's at least be honest. You're doing this for the show, aren't you?" The audience gasped. Someone in the back shouted, "Wow!" The cameras swiveled between close-ups of Cranston's face and Oprah's reaction. Her smile vanished, but she quickly regained control. "Bryan, I'm just asking the questions people care about. You're a public figure. People want to know who you really are, not just the image you project on screen." Cranston clenched his fists, his knuckles widening. He leaned forward, his voice quieter but more piercing. "Who I really am? I'm an actor, a husband, a father, a man who makes mistakes like everyone else. But I didn't come here for you or anyone else to tear my life apart for a few clicks online." The studio froze again. Layla nervously fidgeted with her bracelet, her eyes pleading with Oprah to stop. But Oprah, sensing the moment going viral, doubled down. "Bryan, no one doubts your talent. But when you play characters like Walter White, people wonder, is there some truth to it? Are you hiding something you're afraid to show the world?" This time, the audience's murmurs grew louder. Someone shouted, "Leave him alone!" Another voice countered, "She has a right to ask." The security guards by the stage exchanged glances, preparing for any escalation. A producer backstage waved his hand, signaling the operators to keep the cameras on Cranston. Cranston slowly stood from his chair. His movements were deliberate, but they carried the tension of a coiled spring. The studio went silent, even Oprah looking slightly thrown off. "Oprah," he said, his voice trembling with restrained emotion, "I respect you. You've done a lot for people, for conversations that matter. But this isn't a conversation. It's an attack. And I'm not going to sit here and let you twist my life for the sake of a show." The audience erupted in uneven applause, some cheering Cranston's stand, others sitting in stunned silence. Layla finally mustered the courage to speak. "Bryan, we all respect your work." But her voice was drowned out by the crowd's noise. Cranston turned to the audience, his eyes gleaming. "You know what I've learned over the years," he said, addressing the room. "We all fight our demons. But we don't let others use them against us. Art is a way to tell a story, not a way to judge a person." He turned back to Oprah, his gaze steady but not cruel. "I came here to talk about a film that could inspire people. But if you want a show, you've got it. Just without me." He turned and walked toward the exit. His footsteps echoed in the studio, the click of his heels cutting through the silence. The audience exploded, some clapped, some whispered, some filmed on their phones. Oprah sat motionless, her face a mask of controlled composure. Layla looked like she wanted to say something, but the words caught in her throat. Backstage, the producers were in a frenzy. "He's leaving! Stop him!" one whispered into a headset. But the security guards only shrugged. Cranston had already disappeared behind the curtain, leaving the studio in chaos. The studio of the Oprah Winfrey Show was left in stunned silence after Bryan Cranston walked off the stage. His footsteps still echoed in the audience's minds, the click of his heels like the final note of a turbulent symphony. The cameras hummed, capturing every moment, the shocked faces of the audience, Oprah's tense posture as she clutched her note cards, and Layla's bewilderment, looking as if she wanted to vanish from the stage. But this was only the beginning. The moment that made television history was just starting to unfold. As the curtain fell behind Cranston, the audience erupted into a cacophony of reactions. Some clapped, supporting his principled stand, while others whispered, accusing him of overreacting. The woman in the front row, who had clutched her purse earlier, was now frantically typing on her phone, while the man behind her posted a video to X with the hashtag Cranston walks out. The cameras buzzed, switching between close-ups of Oprah and the chaotic movements of the audience. An operator in a headset received a sharp instruction. "Keep her in frame, keep her!" Oprah, usually in complete control, looked slightly rattled. Her trademark smile was gone, replaced by a tight grimace. She leaned back in her chair, her fingers crumpling the note cards. "Well," she said, forcing a smile, "it seems we've just witnessed some raw, real emotion." Her voice was calm but trembled with tension. The audience responded with a mix of murmurs. Some clapped for her boldness, others whispered disapproval. Layla, the co-host, finally dared to speak. "Oprah, maybe we could go back to the film?" Her voice was soft, almost pleading. She nervously adjusted her bracelet, her eyes darting between Oprah and the audience. But Oprah only nodded curtly, her gaze fixed on the spot where Cranston had stood. "No, Layla," she said, her tone sharper. "We're talking about what's real. What people want to know. And if Bryan's not ready for that, that's his choice." Backstage, the producers were in a panic. "She went too far," one whispered into a headset, holding a phone already buzzing with X posts about the conflict. "This is viral, but we're losing control," another replied. The security guards near the exit whispered among themselves, unsure whether to stop Cranston, who was heading to his dressing room. One muttered, "He looked like he was ready to tear this place apart." But the story wasn't over. The backstage door suddenly swung open, and Bryan Cranston returned. His steps were slow but resolute, his face a mix of anger and determination. The studio froze again, the cameras jerking back to him. The audience gasped, someone shouting, "He's back!" The security guards stood still, unsure how to react. Even Oprah, always composed, looked momentarily stunned. Cranston stopped center stage, his eyes locked on Oprah. "You know, Oprah, I left because I thought that was it," he began, his voice low but piercing. "But I realized I can't just walk away. Not because I want a show, but because I want people to understand." The audience fell silent, sensing the weight of the moment. Layla clasped her hands, her eyes gleaming with tension. Oprah leaned forward, her eyebrows raised. "All right, Bryan," she said, her tone cautious but with a hint of challenge. "What do you want to say?" Cranston took a step closer, his eyes blazing. "I want to say that acting isn't an escape from reality, as you're implying. It's a way to show reality. My roles, Walter White, the character in my new film, are stories about people who struggle, fall, and get back up. And you know what? We all fall. But using that against someone, digging into their life for ratings, that's not journalism. It's not a conversation. It's manipulation." The studio erupted in applause. The woman in the front row sobbed, wiping tears. The man with the phone filmed, his hands shaking. Layla looked like she wanted to clap but held back, glancing quickly at Oprah. The operators frantically switched cameras, capturing every gesture of Cranston, every flicker on Oprah's face. Oprah raised a hand, trying to regain control. "Bryan, I respect your passion," she said, her voice calm but defensive. "But my job is to ask the tough questions. People want to know the truth about those they see on screen." Cranston shook his head, his smile bitter. "The truth? Oprah, the truth is I'm a man doing my job. I don't hide behind roles, I live them. And if you want the truth, here it is, I'm not perfect. None of us are. But I won't let you or anyone else use that to tear me down or diminish my work." The audience erupted again, the applause louder this time. Someone shouted, "Bravo, Bryan!" The security guards exchanged glances, sensing the moment spiraling out of control. A producer backstage whispered into a headset, "This is going to be everywhere. All of X will be buzzing." Cranston paused, his gaze softening as he turned to the audience. "I'm grateful for all of you," he said, his voice quieter. "You come to my films, watch my shows, and I do this for you. But I'm also human. And I deserve respect, just like every one of you." He turned back to Oprah, his eyes filled not with anger but with dignity. "Oprah, I hope next time you'll ask questions that bring people together, not tear them apart." With that, he turned and left the stage for good. His footsteps echoed in the silence that followed. The cameras tracked him until he disappeared behind the curtain. The studio exploded with mixed reactions: applause, whispers, sobs. Oprah sat motionless, her face unreadable. Layla finally spoke, her voice trembling. That was a moment we won't forget. Let's go to commercial." But her words were drowned out by the crowd's noise. The next day, clips from the show flooded X, YouTube, and every major platform. Hashtags #Cranston vs. Oprah and #RespectTheArt trended worldwide. Some accused Oprah of crossing a line, while others defended her right to ask tough questions. The moment when Cranston returned and delivered his speech was viewed millions of times, his words about respect and humanity quoted in articles and posts. Oprah's reputation took a hit, but her team quickly released a statement. "Our show is a place for honest conversations, and we respect Bryan Cranston for his passion." Cranston, for his part, stayed silent, but his new film gained massive attention, with premiere tickets selling out in hours. This conflict became more than a television moment. It became a symbol of the fight for respect and dignity in a world where public figures are scrutinized under a microscope. Who was right, Cranston, defending his humanity, or Oprah, trying to uncover the truth? What do you think of this moment? Did Bryan do the right thing by returning to have his say? Share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to stay updated on stories like this.